Good afternoon. My name is Carroll B. Shiffer. My friends called me Carl. Some of my really good friends call me Shiff the Gunman. Well, since I don't know you, you got to call me Mr. Shiffer. Now, you will not meet anyone more colorful or more opinionated in all of Woodstock than me. I'm also one of the most mysterious men you will ever meet. Now, some of the mysteries might be true, some of them maybe not. You have ears, you have to listen, you have to figure it out. First mystery is 1878. Some people say that's when I was born. Other people found paperwork that said established 1878. So the mystery is, did I start my business then? Or was I born then? Well, if you don't tell anybody, I'll tell you the truth. 1878 was when I was born. Now, other rumors that have been flying around about me is that I was born in a covered wagon crossing the prairie. I was a Phi Beta Kappa graduate from Harvard and MIT. And I actually was a ranch boss for Teddy Roosevelt. And that I was jilted and suffered for the rest of my life from a broken heart. Well, you decide which one of those be true and which one just plain old foolishness. The truth is, though, I am a recluse. Not very fond of people, especially foolish people. However, in the field of rare guns and historic guns, I am a nationally known authority. Now, I was self-sufficient when I was growing up, grew my own vegetables, raised animals, never bothered with electricity till quite a few years later. However, I did have a wonderful security system at my house. We call them guinea hens. And anyone who decided to walk onto my property, by golly, my guinea hens would raise such a ruckus that I would know immediately someone was out there and would go and see what the matter was. Now, besides buying and selling and trading guns and whatever else I really wanted, I loved reading my newspapers and my magazines. Every day, starting at 11:30 Standard Time, never believed in that daylight savings time stuff, until 2 o'clock, I would lock my doors and I would be reading. And you could come by my house anytime on East Side Road and pound on that door. Wouldn't make any difference. I wouldn't answer it until after 2 o'clock when I was done with my reading. Same was when I lived in that cabin, on Fred Gilman's property. Now, if you're not sure where on East Side Road I live, it's quite simple. You just find out where Margaret and Herman Howland live, and you go a few houses south of that, and that's where you'll find me. Now, I was an educated man. I was a very good typist, actually, and I would write articles. And I wrote them for hunting magazines and fishing magazines. As I grew older, I got into politics, and I would start writing some articles and send them to the newspaper. Now, you have to be understanding that I just couldn't abide by Democrats. And some of those articles I wrote had titles such as King Franklin the Damned and Queen Eleanor the Damned. And I have a few of them in here. In fact, I was so strong on that they said that there's a dime attached to the front step of my house. And when you would come knocking to do business, I would say, "Step on the dime." And people would wonder why. And they would step on it and say, "Well, why are you asking me to do that?" "Because it's a Roosevelt dime." In fact, if you ever ran into Floyd Avery, now Floyd Avery is the son of Lee Avery. Now Lee, buried right over there. It turns out that one of these fine people that are taking you around Lee was her grandfather. One day in the 1920s, I decided to take my cow, take it up to Lee's barn, and have her serviced by his bull. Well, we got to talking, and it turned into politics. Found out he was a Democrat, and I just couldn't abide by that at all. So I just turned and took my cow and marched off. Lee said to me, "Now, Shiff, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going home." I said, "I won't raise any calf that's fathered by a Democrat's bull." Now, never owned a car. Never needed to. I walked everywhere. You'd often see me walk into the store. I might have an empty sack on my way down, my gun, my trusty dog behind me. On the way home, same thing, except the sack was full. Walked along the railroad tracks all over North Woodstock and Woodstock. However, if you came to my business, you would find an awful lot of cars out there with those fancy license plates, because they came from everywhere, from little towns and big cities. In fact, there was this guy once who came from the big city, said I needed to buy a gun. So he took a gun, he went out, and he shot a tin can. Well, I took my gun and I went out, and I shot his 4 tires. He said, "What did you do that for?" I said, "You shot my tin can." "Well, I didn't think it was any good." "Well, I didn't think your tires were any good either." So I was quite the character, and I was well known. In fact, if you ever run into Charlie Harrington, he'll tell you about the time that, well, I was trying to get into some modern times, and I did get a phone put into my house. He was over there talking with me one day, and that phone began to ring and ring and ring. Poor Charlie couldn't take it anymore. He said, "Shiff, aren't you going to answer your phone?" "My phone, I paid for it. It's for outgoing calls only." Now, I was a gun enthusiast. I loved my guns, and I was really knowledgeable about that. And if you came to visit me and you wanted to do business, I would answer all questions. I don't care what they were. My only rule is I would wait on one customer at a time. And even if that customer was only going to pay $2, $3 for something, and the next customer was going to spend thousands of dollars, wouldn't make any difference to me. That person just had to wait their turn. However, I do warn you that if you left my business, you turned around and come back again to ask another question, you had to go out to the back of the line. Now, as I told you in the beginning, that my life was full of mysteries. But my death was even more mysterious. You see, they found me laying on the floor with a concussion, they called it. Something bonked me on the head. Well, the strange thing was all the doors were locked. The windows were locked too. Now, rumor has it that they said that I was getting old and feeble and I tripped over something and hit my head. Well, I don't know about that, because there's another group of people who think that someone broke into my house and robbed me, and I caught them and they hit me over the head. Problem is with that theory, nothing was missing. No money, none of my guns. And I was known to keep a lot of money in the house. See, I didn't really trust banks all that much. And I would put my money in jars and they would all over the house. But the real mystery is after I died, this man came forward and claimed he was my half-brother. Wanted to lay claim to the fortune I had, which by that time had amassed to what some people guess was close to $100,000. Well, this was very strange because, you see, my mother died when I was 2. And my father took my little sister and went back to Pennsylvania where he grew up and he still had his family. I stayed here in Woodstock, was raised by my grandmother and other relatives until they passed on. Then I just took care of myself. Well, they say that that man did get all of my fortune. But he didn't. see, I was also known for putting my money and some gold into jars, sealing the jars, and burying them on my property. And they say that there's still jars buried on my property that have not been found. And I'd really like to tell you where to find them. But you might be Democrats, so I can't. Other than that, I can wish you a good day. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. And I have a book over here if you want to take a look at what I looked like in my younger days. So I thank you for coming here.